Welcome here today. Yes, you're all probably like, who the hell am I? And I'll reply with you, I don't know who the hell I am either. But anyways, it's United Racing Championship. I'm Harry, your commentator for today. Quite oxymoronic because I just said I don't know who I am. But we have got a very interesting race on our hands tonight. A 9-point deficit in the driver's title. There's two drivers, one McLaren, one Racing Bull, going head to tail for it after the first first four races actually. But that's not all. You've got such a close midfield battle in your constructors, so keep that all in mind as the event unravels over the next hour and 15 minutes, as I'd love to see you all get involved in the chat. Bring some vibes, as if these drivers are all out there giving it 100%. As COTA, one of the few circuits on the F1 calendar with no corner names whatsoever, believe it or not. However, it is a very well-known circuit, being based in the United States, Texas, the first ever American GP of the modern era of F1. Of course, you have Miami, Las Vegas, and COTA. COTA being on the calendar since about 2011. Then Miami and Vegas, of course, entering onto the scene over the last few years. As you can see, the Sauber and the Aston Martin of Lucas and MH immediately entering on to the scene. As someone has said, quiet boy on top. So we already have Williams being rooted for, that driver of course. Third in the standings as things stand, 33 points in the first four races. Only point scorer for Williams, believe it or not. So maybe more points on the cards for them here today. But you've got Lucas, who is going to set the first lap, unless he ends up deciding to give it way to MH in the Aston Martin just behind. They're so close to one another at the moment, as they're all doing their last moments of tyre preps before we go into the hot lap stage. Usually you see about 3. I say that just because I've done PSGL, so it's like you tend to see it over and over. But Lucas leaving the final corner now, having the first run of the night, up towards turn 1. He goes, the green machine. Currently 31 points in the constructors, hoping to take more come the end of this weekend. Just kissing that first apex and now shimmying it nice and wide as they open it up for turn 2. This is where it becomes the S's, taking inspiration from Senna S's at Brazil, Suzuka's S's, and also Silverstone's, Maggots and Beckett's. But it's a 25.1 after the first sector. And then you work your way down the hill into a fairly awkward hairpin with inspiration from Abu Dhabi. Of course, that very pointy hairpin of turn 5. And then onto the long straights. Just a bit like Abu Dhabi again, some lengthy straights on this circuit. Then a final sector so technically gifted that it draws similarities to the Turkish and the former Russian Grand Prix, but it's a 1 minute 2.3 after the first two sectors. You can see they try and miss the apexes as much as possible. And now into turn 15, 16 and 17, I believe it is. And it's the final few corners up in this session, saving every last drop of battery for the spurt to the line. But is it going to be a Spursy lap is the question. Over the line they go. It's a 33.2. Definitely a strong lap to start with. There's a Ferrari just ahead of Quiet Boy, but we'll focus on to the Williams driver who now rounds out the final corner. What will it be? It'll be fastest lap. It's a 32.3 for them. You've then got ST and Bluefoot going to the top. ST's invalidated their run with Tech going to third. Orabeng in the other Sauber, his teammate fourth at the moment. He's going to knock that driver down to fifth with a new lap. Hyper invalidated, was probably a bit too hyper aggressive against some of the curbs, as Franz over the line next. He's fastest, it's a 32.0. Here today, Owls in the other Williams, giving it all they've got. Can they keep it valid through turn 19 and 20? Such torrid corners. A very awkward complex to perfect, but up to the start finish line they go. It's going to be a 32.3. The top four split by 3.5 tenths so far, and we've only just got started. As up to the line goes Jan. He's invalidated. Sorry, I just took my mind off it for a moment as someone started making a racket outside my room. Probably my sister trying to put me on in this session. But Shamrock, an absolute best in the first sector. Do keep that in mind. But his teammate leaving the middle sector also with an absolute best. However, the game doesn't truly know who in fact is the best in each part until a lap has been set. So the question will be whether or not they in fact are the quicker sectors, or is it just a little bit of the software trying to comprehend what the hell is going on, because we are of course only 6 minutes into the section. As Hyper goes to the top, 31.7 for them. You've got Shamrock going through the final two corners now. What will they be able to put on for this session? Are they going to join their teammate up the front? It's only going to be P10. Rian in the Racing Bulls up next. Just let this all wind down. But Fozzie's round the final corner. They've invalidated it. Yari spams, hoping to spam out a really good lap. No, instead spam the pit entry button. Instead, as they have also invalidated into the pits, they're going to go Rian in the Racing Bulls, sitting P11. Of course, the leader of those with no lap on the time charts whatsoever, as they go through the triple right into the two double lefts to round off this lap. As the question will be whether or not the Racing Bulls can manipulate the form he's had so far. It's only 9th fastest for them, unable to do much with it. As ST, fastest in first sector. And now going at it, hoping to set a lap on the board for them. As the Ferrari, hoping to outqualify their teammate, who for some context did tell me prior to this session that Michael Schumacher never considered him the GOAT because he knew of their existence. Unfortunately for that Scuderia, they're currently 10th. So, it really is not looking too menacing whatsoever. As the Ferrari working their way through the triple rights, kissing each apex with engine. As up to the final line, well, up to the final line, I mean final corner, but now up to the start finish line, no battery left to use, a 32.3 for the Ferrari as my Discord blowing up for other F1 leagues, someone even trying to convince me to commentate in 15 minutes time, but tough, you've got me and I'm not going to shift whatsoever in this session. MH in the Aston Martin, he's pushing his way through the middle part, working their way down towards turn 10, now in this lap. The Aston Martin, it's definitely a season to forget for them. 23 points in the first 4 races as of the end of the Chinese GP, of course, last week. But Fozzie's one of those points. And then MH, if I've read this right, he's scored all the other points here this season. Unless MH is not who I think he is in the driver standings. And in fact someone else, then I may be on a completely different tangent. But irrespective of it, Aston Martin 23 points compared to Red Bull's mere 26. So them two dueling at the rear end of the standings. There'll be a question as to whether or not that Aston can find some form. Over the line they go, P10 for them. That puts them in a rather nice position for the early stage of this qualifying. Jonesy in the Mercedes, the Silver Arrow, hoping to hit a bullseye, maybe provisional pole in these early stages of the session. Jonesy 12th in the standing, 16 points so far. Over the line he does a 32.7, still just within a second of the man on provisional pole as things stands. Yari in the Racing Bulls trying to get a lap on the board. Fresh softs bolted on to that Racing Bulls car after the first 2 sectors. It's a 1 minute 1.5, definitely looking convincing to say the least. Whether or not it stays that way for the rest of the lap, we are about to find out, because there's only 5 corners between him and the start finish line to know where his banker puts him, with 7 minutes now on the clock for qualifying here. So do not go anywhere, the race very much in the near future. Yari rounding the final corner up to the start finish line in the Racing Bulls, goes to third. A lovely lap, a brilliant effort, still however 4 tenths off of the man on the top of the timing ladder. Owls 4 tenths up so far. It does look good, but Bluefoot also finding time, rounding the final corner. Can he join his teammate up top? He'll go third. A good reaction to Yari putting it between the 2 Red Bulls and reinstating his stance. But Owls quickly demoting Bluefoot down to 4th. W-Tech going through the middle sector now as Quiet Boy only managed to go 6th, fastest there, but you can just see how insanely close the run from 3rd to 6th is in this qualifying session. Hardly anything splitting them all, but Hyper on a slow lap, so we are going to ignore them. Fozzies is your next driver to reach the start finish line, unless they opt to go to the pit lane. But 6 minutes, well, T-minus 6 minutes should I say, remaining of this qualifying session. Whether or not we will see all 18 drivers put a lap on the board, we are going to find out, but least I can do is praise the others for their efforts on being here today. It's such an awkward time. I was debating going to bed 18 minutes ago, but Fozzies, a 33.5 for them, as that is it done. But all the drivers working their way into the pit lane. Hyper, however, 0.016 up in the first sector. Hoping to continue that momentum on down the middle straight, or down the back straight we'll call it, as they work their way to turn 11. Will they be able to set a more assertive lap? It already does look like pole is in their hands. Your prediction on top 3? Florian, brilliant question. First time, of course, commentating, but I'd like to say, with the way qualies are looking at the moment, probably Hyper, Bluefoot, and then Owls. So just the 2 Red Bulls making a swap. Hyper into the pit lane, of course, 4 minutes left. So most of them will be bolting on a fresh set of softs for that final run. However, Shamrock, I believe, is on an in lap. so are the TGR Hasses. Actually, Tyler is on a in as well. And then Joker in the Haas, sitting 18th. He's leading the field for the final runs. As in the next 40 seconds, expect the track to go from 0 to 100 in terms of how compact it is. But yeah, for those in chat, feel free to put down predictions on who you think will come top 3. I can tell you for a fact Tyler won't be, due to getting disqualified for driving the wrong way, or Mr. Orabeng, 9th at best for the Kick Sauber, definitely will be kicking themselves if they drop any lower than that. But if I was to predict that top 3 as things stands, it will definitely be Hyper on pole. He looks like he is untouchable. But then I do think there'll be a swap around. I think Owls could be second and Quiet Boy could sneak 2 Williams cars into that top 3 as Joker starting the final runs of the evening. And we are underway for the final 2.5 minutes of qualifying as I took Joker into turn 1, just having to be cautious of that Alpine coming out of the pit lane, managing to do so all well, staying tight through turn 2. There's a Racing Bull just going by in the background, chucking it through the S's, left, right, and then a long right into another left. Quick flick, 25.0 after the first sector, definitely up there with some of the quicker guys. But Joker, 23 points in the first 4 races, fighting in the upper best of the rest status quo in the constructor standings. Haas on 39 compared to Mercedes on 36, Alpine 33 and Williams 33, with also Sauber 31, Ferrari 30, Red Bull 26 and then Aston 23. So it's so close between those 8 teams, whilst McLaren and Racing Bulls 102 for the Papaya and then 87 for the Racing Bulls. But Joker, absolute best middle sector, a valiant effort is on the board for them now, as we are about to see whether or not the American-based manufacturer could get pole position at their home. That's round the final corner. They are about to go. What can Joker do? Is he going to have the last laugh as such over the line? And it's a 32.4 for them. And then next up round the line, I believe, is a Racing Bull. No. Trying to find a name more than anything, but just got to bear with it because I believe most of these cars are not on push. But Fran Bernoulli is in fact on one in the Red Bull. They're definitely looking at changing some of that Red Bull form come the end of today. Of course, 26 points in the championship, them taking home the race win near enough doubles that. So if they can do that, that will be heroic for the team. But round the final corner, what will they be able to put on the timing ladder? It's a 31.8. It's not enough to beat Hyper in this session. It was a good effort, just wasn't good enough. However, ST 69 thousandths of a second up after the first 2 parts. They've invalidated their lap, so we pass the baton over to Bluefoot in the other Red Bull. Their teammate just missing out by about 800ths, the other one unable to set a lap. So it's Yari in the Racing Bulls, hoping to spam that battery. As you can see, it's depleting 3, 2 and now 1%. But they've still got a bit of juice left into the run to turn 1. As up to the line goes Yaron. What was it going to be for the Red Bull? And it's only second for them. Ow, up next, he found time, just wasn't enough. Quiet Boy not able to improve on that lap. But Fozzie is heading to the line. Rian goes to 9th. Jonesy or Johnsy rounding the final few corners. Fozzie's invalidated, but Lucas is on a lap 15th at the moment for the Sauber. What will it be? Come the end of this, it's P12. Good for them. Johnsy last, the 11th, and then Randall in the Ferrari. Last man to put a lap on the board. Is it going to be quicker than 17th, or will he start slowest of the qualifiers? He's 16th, and that duty goes to Fozzie's here in COTA. But here is your grid. For the main race, Hyper on pole by 18 thousandths of a second, 78 thousandths behind is Fran, then it's Owls in 4th, Bluefoot 5th, then Quiet Boy ST, W-Tech, Rian, Joker, John Z Boy, Orabeng, Lucas, Shamrock, MH Randall, Fozzies, then Tyler without a lap after disqualification. So, the main race right round the corner. Ladies and gents, feel free to put your predictions in the chat. If I was to guess, it will have to be Hyper, Quiet Boy, then Fran for your top 3. I'm still sticking with those 3 constructors to have a car on the podium come the end of today's race. But what ones? They are so close, especially the Williams and the Red Bulls. Racing Bull also just off into the view as we are about to go racing for 29 laps around this circuit. Lights now flicking up. 3, 4 and 5. And it's a jump start, but I believe it's for a lobby reset. So don't go anywhere, ladies and gents, because you can see Manic Hyper first car out and a mass bombing into that first corner. Most of these drivers aware of the procedures to go through during the course of this race, as you'll get to see the Manic as Sauber's spinning, Red Bulls dossing around. Yes, we are. I know that, Hyper. As I was debating it at first, were we? But then I do remember the messages I had with the owner just before the event, because it was quite a last minute fixture, me coming in. Really came in about 5 minutes prior. But yeah, just 3 cars to DNF now. Make it 2. And then 1. But yeah, drivers have now readied up once more. We are about to go racing in the next 5 minutes, ladies and gents. So do bear with us during this intermission. I've just gone around to have a drink. And now I am fully prepped for the 29 minute, well, not 29 minutes, the 29 laps, 45 minutes approximately of shenanigans here in the state of Texas, as we still have those 18 drivers raring to go for glory. But yeah, just a bit of stats while I can pull them out. Of course, I've gone through those constructors, but your drivers at the moment, it's Hype on 86, Rian on 77, Quiet Boy 33, F1 Chicane 25, Richie 23, Joker 23, Phase Monkey 22, Jordan Lancer 20, Fran Bernoulli 16, Mutsumi in 10th with 16, Billy Whizzer on 16, John Z Boy 16, Andrast 15, HB Cook 15, Yari on 10, W Tech 10, Bluefoot 10, Lucas Spurs 6, and Fozzie's on 1. That's what the 19 drivers who have scored points are standing as the lights flicking up now. We are about to go racing. And it's lights out, and away we go for the main race here today at COTA, as Tyler getting a drive-through penalty, but Hyper losing place immediately as Yari going around the outside through turn 1. It's 4 pressed for a brief moment, but Fran is going to even squeeze ahead of the McLaren, who has a big wobble, but they'll try and fight it through turn 2 on the inside. And then the S's, the Red Bulls, getting a bit frisky with the 2 Williams, sitting 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, and them, as I believe, W-Tech has gone off in the Alpine. They've now rejoined, and Randall trying to get by. Contact between the Ferrari and the Alpine, as Randall only looking like it's going to get worse for him, because Joker tried poking it down the inside, trying to be a thorn in their backside, but Fran getting ahead of Hyper for a brief moment, but Hyper using the ability to ghost for griefing to get themselves back up ahead in that McLaren car. If you were to look at the compounds in use, 3 on the hards, Hyper, Joker and Tyler, 2 on the softs of the 2 Ferraris, and everyone else on the mediums, but Fran on the inside. Hyper has got put behind, and now Bluefoot around the outside. The Red Bull using all their might to get the moves done in these early doors, as ST trying to make process on those soft compound tyres, which they are managing to do so quite well. Currently 7th, no places gained, but getting very nip and tuck, with Quiet Boy giving a bit of a push and a shove, and surely that is going to push them up into P6, which it does do so. But for Yari, the man who came home P5 in their one appearance this season, leading onto the second lap of the race in some imperious form, as Tyler serving his drive-through penalty, as Rian has got 10 seconds for exceeding track limits, and we are only on the second lap, which does beg the question, how the hell has it got so extremist so quickly here? As now Fran versus Bluefoot, Red Bull versus Red Bull, fighting for second and third in this race. Can Bluefoot step up this standings chart? Of course, both Red Bulls, so little points for them so far, fighting in the lower places of the constructors, but they're going head to head for the upper places in this race, as there's Bluefoot to the inside against Fran. Not looking like too much of a fight whatsoever, a simple place swap for the team on the charge, but Owls looking for a move on Hyper, had a little peek to the outside. Are they going to try and tuck into the inside? However, they look at it again through turns 15 and 6, and that. And now back on the way. Can out get the pace back up? But ST has got track limits penalty. Fozzie's also got track limit penalty. And now Gary, fastest lap of the race. Can there be some action a bit further down the field? Randall trying to get past us. There's a big crash. Randall and Fozzie's into the wall. The Ferrari and Aston both luckily getting away, but one pretty much having a front wing shaved off like it's a newly trimmed beard, and the other one managing to actually leave it alive, which I'm more surprised about than anything. However, for them, 13th and 14th, as the repercussion not ideal whatsoever, as it's one lovely train going from second all the way down to 12th in this race. As now Fran closing in on Bluefoot, but also Hyper closing in on Fran, so it's all getting heated up. ST nearly having to defend, had to defend against Quiet Boy. Can Quiet Boy get ahead, trying to be nice and sneaky with getting move? But again, the Williams waiting, trying to get closer, but just having to wait a bit longer. Of course, patience can be key, but when laps are ticking away like it's nothing, we're already on the 4th of 28. Time is definitely not of the essence. Constant quali laps for some of these drivers as they try and pull away from the car ahead or try and work their way through the field. But ST has dropped out of the DRS of ours, so one Williams dropped him, the other putting the pressure on him. So could we see a move this lap for P6? As the margin just continuing to close down. But Lucas also trying to put a run for our money in. As Lucas to the inside against MH, that's surely P8. A late move, and it's going to continue into a much more long-winded battle. Randall and Fozzie's are locked to wheels, that's why that all happened. Thank you for the input, Florian. But there's Quiet Boy, and there's also an Alpine flying off into the view. That was W-Tech going deep, having to take a wider line on entry to avoid. But Quiet Boy round the outside against ST, who'll have the inside line for these two corners, but it's a perfect opportunity to pull off a switchback if you were in the Scuderia. So will the Scuderia do it? No, they won't. They will have to fall behind, get caught up on what could be their first hurdle in this race. And now all the other hurdles rapidly approaching behind them. As time running out, the softs do look like they're diminishing quite quickly. They're struggling to hold on against the medium compounder runners, to say the least. But you can see Lucas to the inside on MH. The Sauber making a move on the Aston Martin. Is it going to finally be 8th place for the man in the green machine? No, just waiting. They'll go wheel to wheel through the first part of the S's, but doesn't manage to get it ahead. The Aston just having much more downforce on that setup, able to just push them through that segment in time to hold on for the next attack in this race. But Bluefoot now definitely going to have the pressure on him. Fran, Hyper and Al all in their rear view mirror. But will any of them try and pounce on each other, try and spark some tension in the battle for second? As unfortunately nothing there, but a bit further down the field again, Lucas versus MH, the Aston versus the Sauber, two green vehicles, just trying to work out what one's the better team of the two. Currently, according to these standings, it's Sauber 31 points to 23, However, is that the case? Because on track, Aston is taking more points as things stand. But the Scuderia just up ahead, they're starting to drop a bit. You could just see how close MH was getting to the rear end in an attempt to overtake. But Lucas getting good exit of the final corner. They'll look to the inside. It's going to try and be a micro drag race up to turn one. Just wasn't able to get close enough. But who is this Joker on Shamrock? To the inside goes the Haas driver, and that is the Haas driver up into P10. Nicely does it, and for Shamrock, that's them down to P11 here today. As the hard compounder tyres starting to show a bit of kick in them, a bit of Texan spice is the best way to put it, as MH getting 3 seconds for track limits in this race. Another to fall victim to the extension of the limits as they try and not get caught out by this track, which is so difficult. It's such a demanding lap because you're constantly throwing yourself left and right in an anti-clockwise matter. One of the few anti-clockwise circuits. As of course you have to bear in mind that as MH round the outside on ST, the Ferrari versus Aston Martin. It was Aston versus Sauber a lap ago, but instead moved for P7. Is it done? ST sent it into the next corner, but MH is going to get the switchback, and that is them up into 7th place. Now there's ST who's gone around semi-spin, hitting the back by Joker, and again further round, Ferrari in absolute misery here, as it really does not seem like anything is going their way whatsoever. But for Lucas, this could finally be the opportunity for it all to start looking upwards as he goes to the inside against MH. Is that the Sauber finally up in that pecking order? They've got the move done against the Aston Martin. No debate about that. As now the Sauber just ahead of the Aston, but will they be able to run away before the next DRS zone in this race? As unfortunately the answer is no. They've just crossed that bollard for DRS, and it's 6 tenths between Lucas and MH. Definitely one battle we will be following quite closely through this race. However, the Red Bull's getting quite close. 3 tenths between them. You do need about 7 tenths a lap advantage on the car ahead in order to make a move. The advantage starting to become clearer that Fran is the quicker driver at the team. MH possibly looking at the outside, didn't manage to, but instead you can just see the tighter lines on the exit starting to find the gaps where possible, see whether or not they can try and insert that front wing down the inside or around the outside to get the move done. But at the moment, nothing phasing that Sauber in the fight for 7th. But Quiet Boy into the pits. They know they're in a no man's land, as Florian says, crazy how there's no safety car yet, which I'll be honest, Texas has a fairly high rate, but usually the longer the race goes, the higher that chance gets, which is awkward. Usually when I'm doing league comps, it happens in the final 15 laps, a safety car. You do get quite a few late safety cars here at Texas, so those on the hards from the start, so Tyler and Hyper, definitely could be in a good position on the basis that does come true here today. However, Hyper to the inside against Fran. The Red Bull versus McLaren. The Papaya trying to get onto the podium, but not able to do so in this opportunity. But they'll use DRS, they'll use battery to try and continue to close it down. Fran covering off to the inside, so Hyper forced to the outside. The Papaya unable to do so, as they have to settle for 4th a while longer. Unable to do it, but they will again go to the inside, keep on pushing, relentless action between those two. Of course, the old mediums versus the hard compounds that are definitely starting to come into their zone. You've just seen a new elixir of life in that McLaren, and a brilliant move to the inside for the triple right-hander, caught off the Red Bull and showed off some finesse, hence why this man is leading your championship as things stand, and will continue doing so come the end of this race as his closest rival, if I'm right, out of the race. Retired on the opening lap, but Hyper fending off to the inside against Fran, taking the tighter line on the apex, forcing the Red Bull to the outside. He'll have the inside for turn 2, however, but Hyper will just get more traction as they go the long way around, and that is job well done for them. Their next opponent is the other Ferrari, the other Red Bull of Bluefoot, whilst MH is starting to struggle. He's dropped behind by 1 second on Lucas. He's going to have to be at risk of DRS in the next lap, but ours also now putting the threat on Fran. We saw it with Hyper a lap ago, but now the Williams in that same position, 4 tenths to leaving that corner. Could have been a little move to the inside, chose otherwise, but they'll use that DRS because the Red Bull just outside the DRS range, unable to do so. You see that wider line being taken. They are thinking about the opportunities, but who else is thinking about an opportunity? Is Shamrock on MH. The McLaren versus Aston got close as the Aston going a bit wide on the exit, giving the open doors ready for the McLaren to just push themselves through and try and manifest an overtake in this race. COTA usually a track full of overtakes. I'll be honest, we haven't really seen that much today. However, we have seen a fair few out on track, and quite a few ambitious ones, to say the least. The Shamrock getting closer and closer again. Could they be moving to the final corner, maybe catching them off guard? But no, they'll wait for the DRS to come up towards turn 1, as that will be where the move gets done by the looks of it. Up to the first corner, unable to get it done, unfortunately, whilst Fozzie has overtaken Johnsy Boy in the Mercedes. As Shamrock again tucked in behind that Aston Martin for a while longer. Fozzie's getting 3 seconds, but you can just see how much quicker that McLaren is than the Aston. However, Hyper, he overtook a Red Bull a matter of laps ago. He's now looking at another Red Bull on the 10th lap of this race in their amount to success. They'll look to the inside, down the back straight, and they will get it done before the braking zone. That was a very easy move, to say the least. Didn't have to do much overthinking about that. And now MH having to fend off the other McLaren. 2 McLarens are looking to make 2 moves into that one corner. As Shamrock to the inside, they'll make contact, pushes the Aston off the road. They're not going to stop fighting there. As to the inside for the next complex of corners, it's all about the switch back here, but Shamrock will settle in behind and deal with 8 for a while longer in this race, as there's cars dropping down the field with the pit stops. Yari and Owls being the first 2 in that top 5 to pull the undercut in this race. Bear in mind, the 2 Red Bulls are now leaving themselves quite vulnerable, as there's yellow flags for Joker, who is spun in the Haas. Everyone is now laughing at him like he's the laughing stock of the crowd, as Rian being quite profound in his opinions of some drivers. I'll just say it's not the nicest of phrases to call someone. However, it's clear that he's frustrated with the missed opportunity in this race. 3-second time penalty for Tyler in that Haas. It's just so many penalties going their way, it's almost inevitable. As now, MH versus Shamrock, 5th and 6th, but you've got Yari with Thrashards. They'll get the exit on Shamrock, they'll also get the DRS on MH. So could it be 2 cars in that one straight? Or are they going to have to wait a bit longer? They'll close in, they'll go to the inside, and they're going to be ahead before they start braking and able to slow it down just enough to get up into P5. 2 cars, 1 straight. Absolute brilliance from Yari in that Racing Bulls, as they are definitely trying to punch a hole in the air while they can in this race. Remember, lap 11 of 28, quite a way still to go, over half the distance. But Bluefoot, the first of the two Red Bulls to pit, of course they were the leading Red Bull, so they got priority into the pits. You can see MH in the Aston Martin. They've said that they've had enough on those tyres. And now, getting off of them, as you can see, Bluefoot quite a way back against the Ari, but unable to get undercut by Owls. So that's interesting to see. The two Williams have now closed within a second of the Red Bull with their various undercuts. Quiet Boy, of course, 3 laps undercut, or 4 laps, and Owls just the one, but unable to get ahead of the Red Bull in this race. As now we just sit and wait for an overtake as Shamrock versus Tyler. Tyler on the hards. He had a drive-through on the first lap and he is now up to P5. A nice move for the Haas, and starting to work their way through the infield of the pecking order regarding that drive-through came at such an early stage of the race. As Shamrock covering to the inside, but there goes Al, pulling a late switchback. As now Shamrock definitely will be looking at a stop this lap. Fran is in for the Red Bull team. Will he be out ahead of his teammates? The question. Shamrock peeling into that pit lane for the Papaya. That is confirmation that they are done with that stint in this race. And now out for the other one. You can see, however, Fran miles behind them all as Bluefoot fighting Tyler down the hill through turn 2. Could there even be an ambitious move here? Looking to the outside, they've made contact. Into the wall goes Tyler, and Bluefoot, not Bluefont, missing that front wing and their head in their hands. Tried making an ambitious move, didn't make it work, as I'm pretty sure they've just picked up all their track limit infringements in a matter of corners, as Tyler's race definitely cannot get any worse than that. Finding the wall in the race as Orobeng has retired out on track there. He's missed the pit exit, and just when you know what, retires, there's Tyler cutting straight across the Sauber. That's interesting. Quite a dangerous move, to say the least, but they're just continuing to descend down the order. But a bit further ahead is W-Tech against Randall, the man who says Lewis Hamilton told him he's the perfect driver, very much having imperfections in his defence there, dropping down behind him, as there's Shamrock even pulling off a move on Fozzie's, pushing the Aston Martin out wide. They're going to fight back for that place. They even get 3 seconds for track limit penalties and contact, sending into a semi-spin, but Fozzie's trying all they can to hold on. Joker even poking the nose to the inside, seeing whether or not they were able to get by. Unable to do so is the answer, though, to that question, as Shamrock into P13, but Tyler just up ahead. Are they going to play nice? Yes, they will. They'll dive into the pit lane, as I do think that could be race over for both the Red Bull and the Haas. And it is disappointing. You can see the Red Bull just coming out the pit, as Tyler now into his pit stop. Soft compounds coming on for that Haas. Whilst Hyper 15.1 seconds clear up the front of the order. He's of course going to extend and extend until his tyres can't extend anymore, and then pit full of mediums for a massive dash to the line in this race. But we will find out whether or not he will defeat the likes of Yari in the Racing Bulls. But for Williams, they do look like they have this race on lockdown. as they are definitely looking like they could double check out for the podium in this race. As Quiet Boy rounding the final corner to start their 15th lap of the race, whether or not they'll be able to hold on to that provisional third, fourth place on track, because Fran Bernoulli right behind them, getting ready to put the pressure on them today. As time is starting to run out, strategy is starting to fold into formation. That's the best way. This race, in terms of strategy, is just like an origami. Strategists for the teams making moves throughout to influence the structure produced, hoping for it to turn out like a beautiful swan. Could end up turning out looking like a poop emoji. Never know with these strategies. But Shamrock all over the back of Fozzie's 11-lap-old hards versus 2-lap-old hards. So the deficit is quite clear. Shamrock looking to the outside. Fozzie's making rather late move to the inside and then a dash to the outside upon braking. But the Papaya will have DRS on the Aston Martin now. Surely it's the move to the inside they're going to go. The Aston Martin just dropping behind as rear ring closes, and the Aston Martin able to hold on but forced wide. They're going to fight it back like they did a few laps ago. Shamrock round the outside, going the long way, contact between him and Fozzie's, but that's the move done more or less. That's all they can really care about. But Fozzie's just lobbing it relentlessly, trying to keep themselves in this race as much as possible, as Lucas has overtaken Randall, who really did think he was the benchmark, as Verstappen did tell him. That's the way he looks at him. So it's interesting to see how the benchmark is so low in this race, being 10th place, which just summarises the bare minimum of the points, as Bluefoot a 36.0 in this race, new fastest lap, but Tyler a 35.3 on those softs, so 13th and 14th, despite having a tussle, now driving in unison, matching each other in their sector times. But Lucas all over the back of MH to the inside. They're going to go for the hairpin. Are they going to get ahead? Rando's P21 in the standings, by the way. Thank you for informing me, MX. As Fozzie's just not able to leave room, that is quite clear in this race. But Lucas versus MH for the fight for a to the inside. They're going to go. Tyler, 3-second time penalty for track limits once again. As Lucas, 3 seconds for multiple warnings as well. Drivers being caught out now. However, the change is being made at the front. The medium compounds coming on for Hyper, and out the pit lane he's going to come. And he's going to be right with ours in the fight for second. Just behind is Yari on for win. Yes, they are, MX. But we will find out whether or not we will see that change in position come the end of this race, as Hyper will be homing in on his targets. He's only 6 seconds off of Yari and ours, so with time being of the essence, he is definitely in a fine position to do some harm in this race. Because I'll be honest, those fresh mediums should be maybe a second quicker per lap if you put the foot to the floor. As Hyper versus ours, second versus third, now within a second, the margins dropping. The margins dropping per second, and the McLaren looking even more and more poised at hunting down Yari in this race. Tyler has crashed and there's yellow flags out. It's a virtual safety car by the looks of things. I believe it is in fact a virtual safety car. Yes, no yellow dot has spawned and you can see the flashing VSC lights around the track, but that's neutralised the racing just in time for Hyper. He saves those mediums a bit more, whilst Quiet Boy taking this as an opportunity to try and go under the covers, go under the shadows and pull off a move not many can expect, as 12 seconds roughly lost in pit stop under safety car conditions compared to the 27 on average. As Quiet Boy comes out in 5th, but so many people in the pits. Bluefoot drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car. Tyler had it all go wrong. He then DNF'd. Bluefoot also having it all go wrong and now DNFing as well in this race. But Hyper will be trying to get a move done against ours on the next opportunity in this race, closing into the inside, as that is second place for the McLaren. Job done, no second thought about that, but the question will be whether or not ours can hold on to that second or not. But there's still about 10 laps to determine that here today. Lucas versus MH. MH on the hards, Lucas on the mediums, both trying to go to the end on them. It'll be interesting to see how it works, because of course those mediums will fade compared to the hards after about lap 5. So we'll get about 5 laps of back and forth, see whether or not that can change. Lucas closing in, closing even further, move to the inside and then dummies out to the outside. Really simplified it against the Aston Martin, but having it covered off by MH. These two battling like giants all race, and it'll be a shame when they get let down, but Lucas being pushed right to the boundaries, to the inside once more. Is that finally going to be them ahead of MH? Yes, it will be. That is them into P11 in this race. And now I think we can all breathe. The Sauber-Aston Martin feud is over for now. Bluefoot has retired from the race. That is very much expected with how badly it has gone for them. They looked like they had so much promise with the result. Then the contact with Tyler put them both in a wall, and then the drive through for speeding under the not even safety car, under the VSC it was, saw them all out of the race. But Shamrock, next car in a direct fight out on track, just flirting around a second behind WTech in P7. Alpine versus Papaya, Candy Floss versus Orange is the best way to describe the two teams. The French versus the British, another way to manifest this long-winded battle. But Shamrock just not close enough to go for it. Of course, falling back though, which is a shame. But yeah, MH also dropping outside of a second. However, up front, you've got 3.7 seconds between Hyper and Yari. We could definitely be seeing a fight for your race win tonight, which did look like it was a long shot with the way in which Yari got the better start off the line and then just started to cruise away. But since the pit window, the gap has been cutting down quite ludicrously, but it does give Mercedes a really good chance to go above and beyond 120 points come the end of this race. As now we are going to see whether or not we will get a swap in the lead for the final 8 laps here today. Fozzie's 10-second penalty for speeding into pit lane. Fozzie's out of the race. That leaves us with 14 here in Texas. If not even 14, 13. I can't count. I can't even read numbers. So I don't know why you guys are expecting me to read the standings and then just continuing on. But I can tell you that gap is decreasing. I can analyse numbers that way, but I can't in how many there are, which is a shame. But the gap, 2.15 seconds between the top two, dropped by about a second and a half in the last lap or so. So the question will be, will Hyper win or will Yari? Feel free to put your predictions down in the chat, down in the comments, as time is running out for Hyper. He could go for another race win, take another this season, because yeah, I'm pretty sure it's something like 3 wins in the third he's had this season. Just looking at how many points I've scored, could definitely be less, but that's the safest assumption for the points tally of that McLaren. But now, will he get within that second? The gap is still closing. It's not stopped closing though. That's the important thing here today. But the Racing Bulls will be seeing him getting larger and larger in the rear view mirrors as every single corner goes by up towards turn 1. Will Hyper get it even closer? Yes, he will. You can just see how big that McLaren does get against that Racing Bulls as they now go through the S's once more. The mediums should find them a bit of time through this complex as the cars testing their durability, testing their downforce, as you can just see the suspension straining themselves as the drivers chuck it left and right through that and then down the hill, the front wings jiggling up and down, and then down the gears again onto the DRS zone, which for the first time this race Yari has entered it with a second between him and the car behind. So now it's crunch time for both of them. Who's going to crack first will be the main question, as I do think that Mercedes, by any means necessary, would want to try and stay ahead of that Racing Bulls. In fact, just immediately drops behind them both, neutralises the impact of him in this race. So it's pure adrenaline for these two drivers, pure attrition in the fight for the win. Fozzies has left the session, not a big deal whatsoever. He's already out here today, but Hyper rounding the final corner. 4 tenths, the margin between him and the Racing Bulls. A few corrections, the dirty air starting to kick in against them, but closing in. Yari fends to the inside. Hyper goes to the outside. He's going to take the wider line, try and get more traction on the exit, tuck in as well. See whether or not he can start a little feast in terms of this battle for first place as they go through the S's once more. The gap again dropping by the millimetre, and now increasing with that impact of the dirty air, the concertinaing up through the low speeds, then the little kick of the throttle just to see that fluctuate, but closer than they've ever been into a DRS zone. 3.5 tenths. There's a big slide for the McLaren. The margin continuing to hold down, but the rear wing wide open, closing in. Will they be close enough to go to the outside? They'll look to the outside. They'll go to the inside instead. A miraculous lunge as they make contact with the Racing Bulls, having to correct their front end to work it out. And now Hyper pulling off that switch back against Yari. Yari to the inside, fending off once more as they again switch back from Hyper, and that is the move done for the Papaya. They just have to hold on to it for the final 5 laps of this race. But we are about to see whether or not they will in fact do it. As I said, in terms of this fight for 10th, it's going to go back and forth like a yo-yo. But in terms of the penalties, Lucas 6 seconds, MH 3 seconds. So MH will need to find another penalty, or he'll be guaranteed that 10th position as he just effortlessly glides past Lucas in that Sauber at the end of that DRS zone. And now into P10 once more. But yeah, MH up into 10th, and that's that fight done. Whereas you can also see your fight for the race lead, 3 seconds of track limits for Yari, and then Hyper none, and Owls none. So maybe if that Racing Bulls does start to deteriorate in pace and form, could Owls maybe get that second place come the end of today? I do think they'd very much like it, and Williams would be celebrating as a result of it. But we will find out with the final few laps, as Yari is doing every single thing they can to stay within that DRS range of their competitor, whilst these two still going back and forth. MH and Lucas in 10th and 11th. Will we see the transition up to 10th for MH come around once more? DRS wide open for the Aston, as Randall starting to get into DRS range of Shamrock. To the inside goes MH, however they've gone very deep, and that is Lucas back up into P10. The Aston Martin overcooking, and has in fact overcooked. They're now with level penalties, so this is direct position they're fighting for rather than the status quo of being on and off track. So this is your fight for P10 rather than a fight on track, and this could influence the standings for both constructors. Sauber of course 31, Aston 23. 1 point could be quite major in the end game of the season. The Aston taking a wider approach, however not using it all fully as thus far. But bear in mind, Yari tucked in behind Hyper and is starting to close in to that McLaren once more. The tyre life of the Papaya starting to maybe die down a bit. 14 laps compared to 8 laps. This is probably where those mediums do die off at a substantial rate compared to those hards, which tend to be a rather durable tyre. But 3 laps to go of the American GP as Randall versus Shamrock. The Papaya on the outside, the Ferrari down the inside. Prancing Horse versus the team from Woking. The team from Woking, however, will move themselves up into P8 here today, as MH also dueling with Lucas as they go through the triple right-handers. Lucas going to tuck into the inside. No, he won't, as we will see that probably change 1 or 2 more times in the final few laps, as Shamrock has also picked up 3 seconds of track limits. So that's also direct position for P8 just in front of them. You can see them going at it into turn 1, whilst there's Lucas to the inside against MH, and then the switchback being pulled off by the Aston Martin up into P10 once more, as it really does look like the battle is not going to dissipate whatsoever. It's only just going to rage on more and more until that checkered flag falls in in 2.5 laps time for them, in just over 2 laps time for Hype and Yari, who's going through turn 19 and up to turn 20 now. So 2 laps for the leaders, 2.5 for P10 and 11. But Randall close enough against Shamrock. To the inside goes the Ferrari. The Ferrari having to try and make it stick while it lasts. Unable to do so. Looking to the inside once again, as you can see MH and Lucas starting to also close into this battle. Could we see a four-way fight for P8? Here, unfortunately though, two of them will be fighting for P10, two will be fighting for 8, but they'll all be going at it on track in this race. As you could just see for a brief moment, that was ours going down towards turn 2, whilst these guys were going through turns 16, 17 and 18. But Randall using DRS once more. There's 4, not even that, 3 DRS zones left in this race for them to use to their advantage. But who is using it to an advantage is Yari, getting mighty close to the McLaren, getting to about a second between the two, as there could be a move for the win on the road. But off the road, unfortunately, it will be going to the man leading this championship by quite a distance, and getting to put another 25 points into that margin, which is currently 9 points entering this race. So final lap for those two, as Lucas has dropped out of DRS range, I think, for this zone. Randall versus Shamrock. For P8, is Randall going to go for another lunge? He closes in, he just doesn't get close enough to go and get it this time. And MH and Lucas in the same boat, to say the least, as opportunities are fading. We are on the last lap for the leaders, but who is going to win it on and off track? There's Yari in the Racing Bulls, right behind Hyper, hoping to hype himself up with the momentum going into round 6. Even a non-track win will be a big moment in this championship. He's guaranteed a top 2 regardless, but DRS wide open, closing in further and further, the gap decreasing. To the inside goes Yari. He's going to go through on Hyper. That last opportunity used to perfection, but Hyper's not done there. He's going to lunge to the inside, give a little kiss on the inside wheels for the Racing Bulls, who's going to relentlessly fight it back again. But the switch back for Hyper, just how he got ahead of the Racing Bulls, he's going to finish it ahead, as going through the triple right hand, unless there's another ambitious move in these final 2 corners, it's going to be Hyper who wins the American Grand Prix, as there's no attempt into the final corner. So it indeed is the Papaya who wins in COTA. Yari comes home second, with Al coming home 4th and Fran in 5th. But it's not quite done. Randall versus Shamrock. The gap closing, just didn't close enough to go for a lunge. MH, however, all over the back of the Ferrari and the McLaren as well. So for Lucas the Sauber, unable to take any points out of this race. But for MH, he is going to take that last point for the Aston Martin team, unless he could try and push Randall off, get him 3 seconds, and then take it home that way. But out the final corner, Shamrock comes home 8th, Randall 9th, and MH in 10th. Then it's Spurs, Joker, and Jonesy Boy. As you can see, the race winner stepping onto the podium. Fair play to Hyper, the Irishman, showing them that he's got it. However, you can just see it's all Papaya in the spotlight. Driver of the day, most overtakes for Shamrock, fastest lap race winner and cleanest driver for Hyper. However, your results today:
It's Hyper who wins, followed by Yari in P2, Owls in 3rd, Fran 4th, Quiet Boy 5th, ST 6th, WTech 7th, Shamrock in 8th, Randall in 9th, MH 10th, Lucas 11th, Joker 12th, and 13th going to Jonesy Boy, with the other drivers who partook but failed to finish being Fozzie's Bluefoot, Tyler, Orabeng, and Rian. As pretty much summarising what I need to say next for Oregon. Hope you guys all enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed the stream, and I'll hopefully, if I get the green light, see you all back in a week's time. But for now, that's been me. Have a good night. Have a good day based off where you are. Adios.